recording still?
I am recording.
Oh, you are recording?
You record the end.
Yeah.
Hey Lucas, how you doing?
Hey guys, my name is Lucas,
My name is Anna.
and today we're gonna talk about why do we believe in Jesus, and we're gonna show some evidence for this.
To understand why Jesus, we need to first understand who Jesus was.
Jesus was a man who was born in Bethlehem, and he considered himself to be the Son of God. He started his ministry when he was 30 years old, and in 3 years he gained enough followers that we nowadays still talk about Jesus.
Jesus is mentioned not only in the Bible or the Quran, but also by non-religious texts, so we actually have historical evidence of his existence.
There is a historian called Flavius Josephus who was born in around 37 AD, and he wrote about Jesus even though he didn't believe in Jesus.
So now that we know that Jesus actually existed, the question is, was he a divine man? Was he who he said he was?
The first compelling piece of evidence of Jesus is the Messianic Prophecies. Messianic Prophecies are passages in the Bible, usually in the Old Testament, that predicted about Jesus way before Jesus' life. And today we're going to talk about two of these Messianic Prophecies.
So the first Messianic prophecy is in Isaiah 53, verse 5 through 7. It says, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray, each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth." So we can clearly see that this scripture is talking about Jesus on the cross. And then later it says he was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. And in Matthew, we can see that Jesus did not open his mouth when he was accused by the Pharisees. And what's crazy is that these prophecies were written 700 years before Jesus was even born.
We have more than 100 prophecies about Jesus Christ, but let's get to the second prophecy that for me was really important to become a Christian. If we go to Genesis 5, we see here a genealogy from Adam to Noah. And everything that's in the Bible is not here by chance. God has a purpose for every single thing in the Bible. We see that in this genealogy, if we take every single one of the names from the Hebrew, they have a meaning. And if we go name by name in the Hebrew definition, we will see that here it's talking about Jesus. Here in this picture, we see that it starts with the name of Adam. And Adam means man. And if we keep going, we'll see that Seth means appointed, Enosh means mortal. And if we put all the Hebrew definitions in order, we'll see that man appointed mortal sorrow, the blessed God descending to teach, his death shall bring despairing comfort. Here in this prophecy, we see that there is a phrase. If we put all the names in order, we come up with a phrase. And in Hebrew, they didn't use prepositions. So we basically have a phrase that talks about Jesus in Genesis 5. It says that the man was appointed mortal sorrow, and the blessed God will descend to teach that his death, Jesus' death, shall bring to the despairing a comfort. This is literally talking about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ.
The next piece of evidence is not a messianic prophecy, but it's in the Bible. Let's go to Acts 5:35. "Then he addressed the Sanhedrin. Men of Israel, consider carefully what you intend to do to these men. Some time ago, Theudas appeared, claiming to be somebody, and about 400 men rallied to him. He was killed. All his followers were dispersed, and it all came to nothing. After him, Judas the Galilean appeared in the days of the census and led a band of people in revolt. He too was killed, and all his followers were scattered. Therefore, in the present case, I advise you, leave these men alone, let them go. For if their purpose or activity is of human origin, it will fail. But if it is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will only find yourself fighting against God."
So here in this scripture, we see that there is a man called Gamaliel, and he was a Pharisee. And he didn't believe in Jesus as the Son of God. So here the disciples of Jesus already died here, and the disciples, they were preaching about Jesus. And then Gamaliel arrests those disciples, but then he thinks, okay, if they have a purpose that comes from God, then we cannot stop them. But if they don't have a purpose that comes from God, then they're gonna perish just like Judas and just like Judas that perished too. Now, Judas and Judas, they used to claim that they were the Son of God too. So Jesus was not the only one that claimed that he was the Son of God and that he was God. We had other people in Jesus' time that used to claim the same thing, and they used to have followers. But today, we don't see followers of Judas and followers of Judas, because only Jesus Christ had his followers to prosper the word. And if we keep reading the scripture in verse 40 to 42, we see that the disciples of Jesus, they were flogged and they were told to not talk about Jesus anymore. And guess what they do in the verse 41? They just keep talking about Jesus.
So what makes a man get flogged, get persecuted? Peter was crucified upside down, Paul was decapitated, and they were still preaching about Jesus. The thing is, it wasn't always like this. Jesus' disciples actually left him after Jesus died. All of them disowned him, same as Judas's and Theodos's. But the difference is that Jesus' disciples came back to him in 3 days. Judas and Theodos's disciples, they disappeared. They never came back. But these disciples of Jesus, they became preachers. They became church builders.
So why did they turn away from Jesus and came back after 3 days? What could have possibly happened for them to change their minds?
They turned away from Jesus because after Jesus' death, the disciples lost their faith. But then after 3 days, he resurrected, and this gave them faith that he was truly the Son of God.
Now, some people believe that Jesus didn't die on the cross, and that's why he resurrected 3 days later, because he actually didn't die. But we see that in the Bible, everything that talks about Jesus' death is medically correct. We see that there's a medical account, we're going to put this medical account in the description below, that is very accurate with what Jesus suffered in the Bible. And the disciples back then, they couldn't have invented this because they didn't know much about medicine. But we see that everything that happened with Jesus was medically correct and possible of happening.
Of course, there's a lot more evidence for Jesus that we didn't really touch upon. But these are the main arguments that give us faith that Jesus really was the Son of God.
And Jesus did all that he did in only 3 years of ministry. Try to live for 3 years and do everything that Jesus did. Because we still talk about Jesus even 2,000 years after he lived. No one in the history lived a life like Jesus. Jesus was a unique man because he was actually the Son of God and he was God himself.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video gave you some faith. Send it to your friends who maybe don't have faith in Jesus. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Action. I want to preach the word.
There's a lot of evidence that we didn't really touch upon. Thank you for watching.
Let's go. So Anna.
There are plenty of scrolls, I mean, so